dealing with. No one else can reassure me. It doesn't matter how much you or anyone else who cares about me tells me everything will be fine. I have to feel that in my gut, right? And I don't think we actually do a very good job of teaching emotional intelligence to children, like societally generally. And so it's nice that we have more conversations about this now, about mental health and emotional labor and all of that. But some reassurance, but more of a reassurance that I will be here with you for your journey, but the work is yours.
Well, I want to ask you more about that, which is because you mentioned that the root of their anxiety is not for you to fix, which I agree with. What does it mean to be there with someone as they go through their own journey?
I think that's what family's for, right? Like the unconditional love that you have for someone. I can see, especially with the interactions that my mom and I have had now, that she doesn't foist that on me as much. Like she's been, at least on the surface, in her interactions with me, more understanding of me, my life, my decisions, etc. So I don't know if just saying that about the boundaries and drawing those lines of how I want to be with her was clear enough that it sank in, or I don't know if she's like afraid to share some of her fears with me now because I've been so strict in what I've said I would be able to tolerate. And I think in other situations, it's like, it's not just anxiety, but it's like friends I've had in my life who are dealing with other mental health issues, depression, etc. Like it's the once in a while reaching out and being like, hi, I'm here, I'm thinking of you. That seems to be my strategy generally. And also just being true to them to say, hey, look, like, I know you're reaching out right now. I don't have the spoons for this. It doesn't mean I love you any less. It's just I have a lot on my plate right now and I can't give you my full attention. So the communication of that, once I'm able to articulate it because I'm able to understand what it is that I need, that has helped as well. And I've told my mom that. Like, there have been occasions where she's texted me a few times. Like, I don't respond. I'm not someone that responds immediately, and I've tried to train all my friends and family that eventually I will respond, but I'm not going to be there at every ding of my phone. In fact, I turn off all of the push notifications, and it's been so much better for my mental health. And I told her, right, because like she texted me like back-to-back days or something, and then like made a point to call me. I didn't pick up. And this was all within a span of, I would say, a fairly short amount of time, so like a reasonable amount of time that it would have, 36 hours could have elapsed, and it's fine, I'll get back to you eventually. And I sent her a text, and I was like, Mom, I love you very much. Like, I just don't have the energy to talk to you right now. Please let me reach out to you when I do. I love you. And we went through a couple of rounds of those, and she respected it. And I'm sure it was hard for her. She's like, oh, I just like can't, don't you know how I feel like when you don't pick up the phone, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yes, I do. But as I've explained to you, like, I'm busy with XYZ, or my brain is really tired, or whatever.
To me, I just had this flash of insight. Like, to me, it sounds like the boundary that you're drawing is when someone else's anxiety feels like it's trying to change the way that you behave.
Yeah.
And so she can have the anxiety of saying, you know, don't you know how it feels when you don't pick up the phone? And you're like, yes, I do. And I'm still not going to pick up the phone just because it makes you anxious. You know, I'm not going to change the way that I'm acting because of how you're feeling.
But I think having that explanation of, this is why I'm not picking up, and this is why I need you to respect my boundaries. I recognize that her anxiety is this like unwarranted anxiety. Like I can think of another situation, or plenty of situations, where if I'm not picking up the phone, that is very concerning. But this is literally like a day-to-day, like, I haven't answered my emails or texts in 24 hours. Like, it's not like I haven't answered in 2 weeks. If it's been 2.5 weeks, 2 weeks, she's tried to reach out to Jeff, she's tried to reach out to Jesse, no one's responding, and she doesn't know where I am. Okay, sure. Panic might be warranted at that point. Might be.
Maybe not. Maybe not full blown panic. Maybe just slight concern or wondering. Slight
concern and wondering. And of course, if it's like deviating from your regular pattern of communication and something's twigged your mind to it being, you know, an aberration, great. But yeah, like if your feelings are asking me to do something unreasonable, or like, I wanted to reassure my mom that she can feel however she wants, like, that's totally fine, also with the subtext that that's probably not the healthiest way to feel if I'm not picking up the phone in 24 or 48 hours. Like, that's just that's a lot of worry that you don't need to have on your plate, right? So
Right.
for her own mental health, it's like as I'm learning to let go of things that really don't matter, God,
Yeah.
it's just a weight off your shoulders. So if I can help her through that, then that's fantastic as well. And then give her the explanation. And then, like you say, hold that boundary. Like, yes, and it makes me anxious too the first couple of times I've done that, because in the past I'd just be like, okay, like I'll have a conversation, and I'm irritated on the phone. It's not a good conversation anyway. And so, and if I'm aware of that, I can tell her, be like, look, Mom, I want to have a good conversation with you when I'm fully present, which I think is what you want as well. Like, let's wait until we're both in a space that we can do that, right?
I'm learning so much.
I'm glad.
You had talked about this idea of spoons before. Can you talk a little bit about what the background of that term is?
It was explained to me by a friend who has multiple chemical sensitivities. And it's like, let's say your spoon ration for the day is that you have 12 spoons, and you can use them however you want, and certain actions will take a certain number of spoons. But like I said, you only have so many for the day. And let's say that day, you are really, really, really tired, and getting out of bed takes 2 spoons instead of the usual one. And then by the time you're brushing your teeth and like getting ready to get to work and like hopping on public transit, say public transit takes 3 spoons instead of the usual 2 because of whatever reason, because you're tired. You've depleted your spoons from the day before. And so you then, by the time you get to work, you're not, oh God, how many spoons have I said? Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I can't do math. You have less spoons than you might usually start with at the beginning of the day. And then, like, say you have to deal with your boss in this, like, really emotional, labor-intensive conversation where you're justifying some decision that you made to him or her. And so you've depleted all your spoons, or sorry, you have fewer spoons than you need. And let's say work depletes more than usual. Let's say by the time you get home at the end of the day, you're down to like 1 spoon. Okay, well, if it takes you 3 spoons to make dinner and you only have 1 spoon, well, you're not making dinner. You're probably going to get takeout or something, right? So it's just this idea that we've got this finite amount of energy in a day. And whether it's because dealing with anxiety, depression, other health issues or whatever, and it might take different people different amount of spoons. It might take you a different amount of spoons to deal with your boss one day or get to work or get dressed or whatnot. But being aware of what's in your reserves and what you've used, it's been really helpful for me to visualize, because it makes me have a little more compassion towards myself when I'm like, why can't I do the dishes tonight? Like, why can't I? I've been looking forward to having dinner with these friends of mine who I haven't seen in forever. Why is it that I feel like I don't want to go anymore? And it doesn't mean I won't do my dishes or won't see my friends necessarily, because I might do that, but then I also recognize that, oh shit, that means tomorrow I'm going to be starting with 9 spoons instead of 12 because I've tapped into the bank from tomorrow.
I mean, to me, this sounds like just regular energy management.
Absolutely.
Doesn't require you to have any kind of mental health or physical condition.
No. And it sounds like, I'm just looking at Wikipedia, which is queuing up, but it says it's a disability metaphor for a combination of ego depletion, fatigue, and other factors.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's talking about mental energy and physical energy available.
Yeah. From having worked in mental health myself, I feel like there's so many tools that exist in the mental health field for people who are not mentally well, which can be so easily extrapolated into the population at large.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just like there's so, I don't even know why we don't talk about this idea of spoons in regular life,
No, I think mental health is still so siloed in many ways, and it doesn't cross over, like you say, into mainstream or whatever, and it's really unfortunate, the healthcare system. It's like, I can go to the doctor with a broken foot, but if I'm feeling a bit anxious or like low energy, you're supposed to just deal with it?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, that's normal. That's normal,
Yeah, totally. No wonder we have burnout and all of these other issues.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like right now, the physical health field, they've taken to things like preventative health. And
yes.
I think that's a great step. And the next step that we have to take is preventative health for mental conditions. There's so many things that can be easily mitigated if you nip them in the bud. And only once it's like a full-blown diagnosable mental condition like depression, then you get the help that you need, but you could have gotten that way earlier.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. And I think just education as well. And I mean, I think honestly, everyone should see a mental health professional, even for like standard checkups. You go to the doctor for a checkup. Why wouldn't you go see a counselor or a psychologist or something? And I mean, I'm really lucky in that I have benefits that can cover my sessions with my psychologist. I also have a salary that lets me go see my psychologist once my benefits run out. And that is something I have prioritized because, goodness, like stress has been the biggest impediment to recovering, right? Because it's this brain cognition, this processing, and the cognition that's on overdrive that doesn't let the brain heal. So I've had to manage my stress, but I've had to double up my speed on how fast I can learn how to these coping mechanisms because of the concussion, because it was driving me nuts, like the things that were, just spinning in my head.
So it's been a year and a half since the concussion happened. What's been your process of recovery since then?
Oh, it has been a long one. It's been a long one. Like I was mentioning with stress management, that's been a very big part of it. So the early days, especially, I was just spending days meditating, doing nothing else but sitting around, mindfully drinking my cups of tea, hanging out with my cat. But yeah, I had a lot of sitting quietly, right? Like it was tough to keep still, but I had to and I was forced to, like we were talking about earlier, because my brain would tell me that I had to stop when I was thinking too much or moving around too much. And prior to the concussion, I'd been on and off meditating for probably the better part of a decade, but a little more seriously 3 years ago or so. And an ex of mine had been a big proponent of meditation, and I gave it a shot, and this time it kind of stuck. So I was really lucky that I had started building a bit of a practice. So I wasn't too bored, actually, when I was just recovering and sitting still, meditating for 40 minutes here, drinking a mug of tea from start to finish, doing nothing else but drinking that mug of tea for half an hour. And then slowly I was able to, listen to some podcasts like 10 minutes at a time, or read books 10 minutes at a time, like paper books, because I'm not looking at screens still. And in fact, still, even now to this day, I have all of the blue light filters on all of my screens, all of my devices. And that is probably something that's going to be sticking around for a while afterwards, probably well into my recovery, because it's just better for your eyes anyway. So yes, little things became delightful. Like I delighted in the fact that I could write my second note to my friends, and it didn't take me 5 days to handwrite and get Rachel to scan and email them. I was saying I was getting quite stir crazy. So going on small walks, and then eventually small, tiny jogs. And then eventually in the fall, I had actually signed up for a pottery class prior to my accident. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to take it because I didn't know where I was going to be recovery-wise. I do end up going to my first class and was so impressed that I was able to last the, I think, 2.5 hours that it was. Like, this was my first thing. And it was really great. Like, it was a lot. Like, I remember being very, very tired the day afterwards. And then by the time spring rolled around, like late winter, early spring 2019, I had decided I really wanted to do more pottery. It was just so nice to do something that was physically grounding, because my job is so in front of a computer and so cerebral. I forget how much being in my body feels really, really good, and in my body and out of my brain. So my recovery has not only been a recovery of brain injury recovery, it's been a rediscovering of who I am and what drives me and what I want out of life, really. It really makes you think about priorities, right? Like we were saying earlier, I don't really want to be known for the girl who never missed a day of work. That's not really me.
How would you like to be known?
Oh my goodness. Just think someone who's full of life and loved life, loves life, and was surrounded by a lot of love and had a lot of love to give.
Sounds like a fun person you would like to have in your life.
I hope so. I mean, I really like the me that I'm becoming, which is a challenge too, working on a lot of this self-care, I would say. Self-care, self-love, all of the negative stories that of doubt that I've told myself through the years. It's a lot of undoing, but slowly